I have just watched the Bad Batch episode 2 titled Cut and Run. Definitely a short episode than the previous one and had a much lighter tone compared to the other one. And there was like some things that really confused me that I had issue with in the episode, but nonetheless, these were quite enjoyable to watch. Join me, Lucamus Prime, as I review the second episode of the Bad Batch's first season. And guys, I am not alone because my best friend Oppo Ranscisis is also reviewing the episode with me. Guys. Anyway, cue the intro. This episode was great, and guys, I think I'm going to let Alexander say his thoughts on the episode up first. And guys, if you aren't already, please go subscribe to him. I'll put the link to his channel in the description below, so please go subscribe to him and give him support, he deserves it. Anyway, take it away, Oppo.
Thank you for the invitation once again, Lucas. This was a decent episode, very decent. But before I talk about the very positive aspects of this episode that I really did enjoy, I want to cover the negatives, because you can't truly ever talk about the positives when you have some strong negatives like I do have with this episode off your chest. Let me just say, last episode we had Tarkin and Lama Su arguing over whether the clone program should be continuing. Tarkin said they can do the stormtroopers exactly the same. I saw a few reactions from people claiming, the clones are far smarter. Well, this episode proves the opposite. It proves that clones not only are not smarter, they're the stupidest people in the universe. I am very sorry to say this, but this episode presented the clones very badly, in a very bad way. Because, literally, look, I know that the Bad Batch is modified, but you can see Hunter very much still looks like a clone. And Cutler Quain especially looks just like any clone. So to see them walking in broad daylight across the streets, no cover, no anything, talking, and so many clones looking at them, and yet nobody suspecting a thing, is preposterous. But the even more preposterous thing is when Cutler Quain is literally going to go on a shuttle to escape the planet, and we literally have these clones looking them right into their face and still letting them through. And then if to make it even stupider, the clone looks and he says, "You look like," because he obviously recognized the face. And then the other comes up and says, "Oh, we have an insurgents," and this one runs off and says, "Carry on." Man, like, if you're smart, you would have connected that there's some kind of insurgents and there's a person who is a clone and not on duty and looking like a normal citizen trying to go into this shuttle to leave the planet. You would have connected the two, and you could have, even if you had to run off to deal with this situation, you would have still understood that something is wrong, and for the safety of the Empire, which you were sworn to protect and protect so much every time, so ruthlessly, so roughly, you would stop this guy from entering the shuttle. You would tell him to go away, or you would have stopped and halted the shuttle boarding. I mean, I've had so many instances where I was going to go on a plane and the plane got delayed by 3 hours. That's not something that is completely preposterous. And when there's such a big reason and a possible situation here, and you recognize the face, that clone was the stupidest person in the world, and it really took me out of the episode quite a lot, especially on the rewatch, which I did with Lucas. But now about the positives, which there are a lot of. First of all, I really like the light tone of this episode. After how dark, grim, depressing, strong, full of emotion the last one was, I really wanted something far lighter, and this was it, Second of all, I really loved the character of the family in the Deserter episode from the Clone Wars, and they make a comeback. All of the cast returns, which I was very happy about. Kara Pivko, Nika Futterman, Cap Susie, and of course D. Bradley Baker as Cutler Quain. Now, I don't like Cutler Quain just because I don't think it makes any sense for a clone who has been programmed to be a soldier of the Republic to still think so outside the box. I know many people like that. I don't personally like that. I don't feel like that. I don't like how they give the clone so much personality. But except for that, I really do like this family. And revisiting Seleucuma, I really loved, especially now that we get to see more of it. And I really love to see the little Nunas. Nunas are like my favorite creatures. They're so cute and so fat and so small. I really love seeing them. And the Nexus especially, and they gave the Nexus the right sounds. In fact, I think they expanded on the sounds. Matthew Wood or whoever was the sound designer for this episode, amazing, especially with those growls, and the little jumps that the Nunas make and everything. Fantastic, fantastic. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Nika Furterman as the Alina character. Anyone who knows me knows that I love the Alina species. I love Tu Choi from Acts of War. I love Kasdan Paratus from The Force Unleashed. I love all of the species. I love the Circus Alinas from Season 5 with the Honda and Aka Youngling arc, the circus that was there with the Alinas. I love them. They're very nice creatures, so it was very nice to see all of them again. And the emotions, once again, really hit me hard. Very good emotions, especially the dynamic between the characters in this one. And once again, the writing wasn't as good as in this one as I found it in the last one, but it was still pretty decent. I really enjoyed it quite thoroughly, actually. Well, what else should I say? I loved seeing the little, the guy who was trying to board the shuttle. I love that species, the swine-looking one, the pig-looking one. D. Bradley Baker wasn't as good in this one as the clones as he was in the previous one, in my opinion. And I think Lucamus shares that, from what I know. So yeah, but pretty much a lot of positives. Definitely a very nice tone. We got a Rex hint thrown in there, which was pretty splendid. Great animation, great lighting, very nice, very fun. So look at my great set, great location, and what can I say? Great episode, and thank you to Lucamus for having me on board. I really appreciate it.
So, this episode, well, what's it about? So it's time for me to share my thoughts on this episode. So, the episode begins with a Bad Batch arriving on a planet called Sayus Army. So yeah, Sayus Army appeared briefly in Revenge of the Sith, in the scene where Stas Ali is killed by her own clones in Order 66. And it had a much more bigger role in the Clone Wars, and it appears here. So, the Bad Batch arrive where they meet a friend of Tech called Cutler Crane. And his family. So if you don't know who Cutler Crane is, he's a clone who defected from his orders in the Clone Wars to go and have a family, which I think was a very strange thing to do for a clone. Like, how could Crane, disobey his orders like that? Really? That's not the way of the clones at all. So they go there to get advice on how to stay off the grid from the newly formed Galactic Empire, as you saw in the previous episode. So Laquane tells them about the only way to continue unnoticed is to abandon, the Grand Army Republic military life and to be a civilian, basically. We've also got to see Laquane's family, his wife and children as well. And I believe the voices from the Clone Wars returned to voice in this episode, which was great to see. I was happy about that. And he also mentions that a friend of his, which is Rex, had stopped by a day before to warn him about the Imperials arriving. So yeah, Rex, at this point in time, he must have, left the Snowy Planet from the Clone Wars' final episode, maybe, possibly, in the timeline. Because they don't really, mention, the point of time in which it's taking place with Revenge of the Sith, basically. So yeah, they don't mention Revenge of the Sith's events in this, really. And Rex also told him about the inhibitor chips as well, which caused the clones to turn on the Jedi in Order 66, so yeah. And the Bad Batch have no idea about this, they don't know what an inhibitor chip is, basically. So Hunter introduces the Laquane family to, Echo and also to Omega, the little girl who is like a female clone, basically, and is part of the Bad Batch. So she's like a female clone. So Hunter offers to take them off-world in their ship, but Cut tells them that it's too dangerous with them being wanted fugitives. So yeah. So he tells them that they're making for a spaceport later that day. So yeah. The spaceport looked pretty cool, by the way. Lots of different alien species there and droids as well. It was pretty cool. And we also got to see a brief cameo by a land speeder look like Luke's land speeder, which is pretty cool. But when Cut and Hunter arrive that day, however, they discover that the Empire has implemented a new policy which basically requires chain codes, I think it is, for legal passage. And as well, and they also register the people as well. So yeah, not just for codes, but they register the people. And because of them being a clone, Cut will be unable to present proper identification, sadly. So yeah, Cut can't do that. So yeah, he's got no chance. Now later at Farmstead, Omega is nearly eaten by a Nexus. So if you don't know what a Nexus is, it's those, cat-like creatures that, Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan fought against in the arena and Attack of the Clones, alongside those other two creatures. So yeah, It's that, white creature with the multiple eyes and the very sharp fangs. So it's nice seeing Nexu again. Because she's playing a game of ball with, with Lecrane's children. But luckily, Lecrane's wife saves her with her rifle that scares away the Nexu. So Hunter believes that, he and his team are not good enough guardians for Omega because she nearly got killed by the Nexu. So, he asked Cut and his wife Sue to take care of her so she can live with them when they go off-world. So, meanwhile, the Bad Batch are planning for Tech to create false chain codes for them and to deliver them to the Lecrane family at the spaceport after intentionally getting their ship impounded. Something which Hunter didn't appear it to be, for. He looked like he was against it. Now, unbeknownst to Tech and Echo, however, Omega, stored away on the ship with them as a stowaway, because she was upset after the encounter with the Nexus. So, yeah, she went on the ship with them. So they continued with the plan, however, despite her being on it. But when the time comes for Tech and Echo to deliver a code to the others, Omega takes the initiative to do it herself, but unfortunately she gets into harm's way. Because she bumps into a droid, which starts to alert the other clones. But luckily, before it can, get their attention, Wrecker comes in to save her by shutting up the droid by hitting it on its dome. And he goes to help Echo and Tech because the clones come to ambush them to attack them. So he sends Omega to Hunter and the Lecrane family, and when she arrives to present the chain codes, Hunter tells her about, that Cut and Sue are going to take her in as family, and she reluctantly goes with them, but she decides to disobey Hunter and run back to them, basically, as they're making a getaway. And luckily as well, this distraction causes, the Lecranes to successfully escape from the clones as well, who are registering them. Luckily, the clones get distracted. And after escaping Salasami, Hunter tells Omega that he only sent her away because he thought it was what was best for her. But then he tells her that if she wants to stay with him, then she's more than welcome to. So yeah. So that's like the plot of the episode that I've told you about. Now, one thing that, I had an issue with in the episode, which was what me and Alexander didn't really like, as you can tell by his review that he's just said, I didn't really like how the clones in the spaceport did not recognise a Bad Batch. I don't get it, because we have the same face, and the same voice, so how do we not recognise them? Like, that was very, very confusing. Like, are the clones really that dumb? Seriously? And not only that, but when the Lecranes are about to board the spaceship to leave the spaceport, a clone stops Cut to say and says, you look just like. But before he can say who he looks like, he gets distracted and says, carry on, get in the ship. Like, really? You're gonna let a distraction stop you from interrogating Cut? Saying you look just like me? Like, that was really confusing. I don't know why I get to do that, really. Like, they're making up that the clones are really unintelligent and stupid, and they're not. They're not supposed to be unintelligent at all. So that was very confusing. But nonetheless, this was a very enjoyable episode. The plot was good. Definitely much lighter than the previous episode. It was less dark. And, shorter, of course, as well, because I think the previous one was like a special episode in a way, if you think it was like that. And the cast did a good job as their characters as well, definitely. And many of them returning from the Clone Wars, such as, Nika Futterman as one of the children of Cut, the blue one. And also, Kath Soucie also returned as her character. I think she's called Jack, I believe, her character. And Nika Futterman is called Shea. Nika Futterman also voiced a seller in the spaceport called Forger, who sounded an awful lot like Ventress. Well, same actress, so yeah. And also, Cara Pifko returned as the voice of Sue, Lecrane's wife, as well. And of course, Joella Baker appeared as the clones. All of them, yeah. And I didn't really like how for the normal clones, he didn't give them the hoarse voice like Tamora Morrison had. That's the problem I had with the rest of the Clone Wars, to be honest. Like, they need to have a hoarse voice so it can be like Tamora Morrison, basically. Oh yeah, and also Michelle Ang, of course, plays Omega, a female clone. So yeah. And of course, I did also love the visuals as well, very amazing and, almost like live action pretty much. It's very good. And also, music by Kevin Kline was also very good, so I definitely liked it, yeah. especially in the scenes where they're preparing to leave. It was very well composed. It was very good. I liked it. So guys, this was me and Oppo Ranscisis reviewing The Bad Batch. So yeah, episode 2 called Cut and Run. So yeah, so drill guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also be sure to comment what you guys thought of this episode of The Bad Batch. Also as well, be sure to subscribe to Alexander like I told you to before. I showed you his review. So yeah, and also be sure to subscribe to my channel. More is coming in the future. And may the force be with you always.